Thank you for joining us for this joint public hearing with the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections. This public hearing provides the public an opportunity to make comments regarding the transportation sales tax referendum. The council members nor the election commissioners will interact with the public or answer questions during the public hearing. The clerk will call each speaker's name and each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes to speak. We have a lot of speakers signed up for this hearing, so please stop speaking when you hear the beep at the end of your 2 minutes. No action will be taken by either body regarding this matter following this public hearing. I also want to announce that Mr. Moody will be late for this public hearing. His son was participating in the state swim meet in Columbia this afternoon, and he is on his way back from Columbia now. Ms. Honeycutt has been coaching her daughter's volleyball team this afternoon and is joining us by Zoom now and should be joining us in person before the end of the public hearing. Mr. Krabrowski is absent due to illness. At the end of the public hearing, we will have a short break, let's have our public hearing. Let's begin.
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council and the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections will hold a joint public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. pursuant to Section 4-37-30A2 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina as amended to provide notice that Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections will conduct a referendum to impose a special sales and use tax in the amount of 0.5% in Charleston County for not more than 25 years or until a total of $5,400,000,000 in resulting revenue has been collected, whichever occurs first, on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Let me get my list. Anthony Bryant, followed by Denise Reynolds.
Should it be noted that she stated $5 million, not $5 billion?
I said $5 billion, thank you.
I'm here for making sure my vote counted. And I spoke on this issue, but I was doing my VIN registration with the state, and it came to the conclusion that when I went to talk to someone at the Department of Revenue, they said that Anthony G. Bryant wasn't in South Carolina from 2015 to 2023. Now that means that when I came here, in between 2015 and 2023, I basically came from a foreign country or another state. Okay, so this is pretty serious in terms of people voting on house and sales tax, because who's voting? Does our vote count? I come to tons of meetings and I hear from the governor of South Carolina, who's a supporter of somebody that got issues with certain people, a state representative, 2 state representatives that support a particular national candidate, and another one that supports another national candidate. This is not about the half-cent sales tax. I'm totally against it. You know, I'm totally against it. So that's not even a matter of my position on that, because of the fact that, you know, hey, if Ben DeVar can get some help from the city for $13 million and the county for a couple of million, why can't I? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, my vote should count. I want to make sure the Department of Revenue, the Department of Administration, and all the state agencies who put this together, because I heard from a state mandate. It's a state mandate to do this, or wherever you're doing. You know, this is kind of like late in the game, right? In terms of this public hearing, and you're going to take action and not take action, I don't know. But at the end of the day, we need our votes to count. That's always my concern. Whether you vote Republican or Democrat, your vote should count. And if the governor's got any issues in his office in terms of Anthony G. Bryant, then we'll find out throughout the night.
Denise Reynolds, followed by Jay Reynolds.
Good evening. I'm out there every day listening to people, a majority of whom will vote no, and not just because they don't like big roads or taxes. When they hear me mention county council and money, they roll their eyes and start telling me how bad our roads are. From what was approved in 2016, the only completed project is the widening of Glen McConnell Parkway. That took 8 years. How are we to believe that the Mega 526 extension will take the proposed 10? 3 projects from 2016 have now been moved onto the new list, but since the only project marked as a priority is 526, how can we trust any of the other projects will actually see any money? Since this tax is pay as you go, once the extension starts, it will eat every penny of this tax for 25 years. Voters don't trust council to manage a project the size of the extension, and they do not trust you will do what you say. 2 of the most relevant examples being the siphoning off of $75 million from the 2016 tax, which you explicitly told voters you would not do. Now, the latest project to disappoint voters again is the elimination of the Bike Ped Bridge and the Main Road Flyover project. In North Charleston, we keep getting promises of relief from trains blocking our roads, but the Durant Overpass project got cut from your list also. Councilor Pryor, you were quoted as saying people can make excuses or comments when they don't want anything done. Of course we want something done. We want relief sooner than 20 years from now. We want smaller projects across the county to get funded. We want safe passages for our bicyclists and pedestrians. We want green space and public transport, all of which will be funded at the lowest levels ever. Until you can show us you can be better stewards of our tax dollars, voters will vote no. Thank you.
Jay Reynolds, followed by Susan Kershaw.
Hello, my name is Joe Reynolds. I'm from Parkside Drive, North Charleston. I'd like to urge everyone to vote no on this half-cent sales tax extension. I think we all understand implicitly what the council is trying to do. They have worded it in such a way as a little bait and switch. They've peppered it with some extra projects that maybe you'll get, maybe you won't get, but you probably won't get. We all know you're not going to get those projects done. All this money is going to be hoovered up, vacuumed up to go for 526. If you come back with us with some sensible proposal where our projects in North Charleston or Mount Pleasant or downtown or other places, even West Ashley, are promised the funding, then maybe we'll review that. But right now, what you're doing is you're making these vague promises, and we don't really trust you following through with those. Thank you. I urge you all to vote no.
Susan Kershaw, followed by Rick Voigt.
I'm Susan Kershaw. I live at 3605 Berry Hill Road. I am a citizen for safe roads. I want our roads to be safer and better maintained. I want to create more safe space for bikes and pedestrians. I want more and better public transportation. I want to set aside more green spaces. Because I'm for all of this, I'm against this referendum. We don't need the 526 extension to get off of James Island. If we just finish the flyover and add a lane to Maybank at Fenwick, we'll double the number of lanes going off the island. So, if we vote no on this referendum and get a better one in 2 years, one that leaves out the 526 extension and adds that $2 billion plus to other areas. $2 billion is a lot of money. I see 3, I know. I'm speaking conservatively. For context, the seawall around the Charleston Peninsula is estimated that it would cost $1 billion. This is $2 billion. If we allocate that to other areas of transportation, we could do all of the new roads which were proposed in the spring and were cut in half by the county council. We could also double the county's contribution to CARTA and the BRT. We could also double the amount of money set aside for the green space. And we would still have $500 million left over for maintenance and other intersections. All of that could make a real difference in Charleston County.
Rick Voigt, followed by Mary Edna Sullivan.
Rick White, 161 River Breeze Drive, Charleston. I'd like to thank all of you for your public service. I'd particularly like to thank 3 of you. I'm against the current form of the half-cent sales tax. I'm not against taxation to take care of the public good. However, how this tax is being proposed and proposed to be used is what I'm against. I wish I could visually share my car being towed away this week from a 100-year flood. And in fact, we've had 500 or 1,000-year floods in the past 10 years. Do you think we should limit how we spend our money? Do you think maybe we should limit on spending on really important things, which includes keeping wetlands and parks that absorb water? At the third reading of this, the real estate and developer community staged a stand-up. Who's in support of this half-cent sales tax? I'd like to pose that same question tonight. Please stand up in favor of this 526 half-cent sales tax if you're in support of this. Thank you.
Mary Edna Sullivan, followed by Cravonda Forrest Simmons.
Good evening. My name is Mary Edna Sullivan. I am an octogenarian who has lived in Charleston since the 1980s. And I want to save our quality of life. I am not happy with the way Johns Island is being overdeveloped. I'm not happy with the condition of our roads. I hate it that Bowman Road has a flyover, but our 17 here at Main Road and doesn't have a flyover. But my biggest point is I would like to save our neighborhoods, our wetlands, our marshes, our county park, and the wildlife that live in them. I'm not against taxes, as my previous people have said tonight. I pay them regularly. I've never been defunct. But building I-526, the Stono River will have more bridges than the Hudson at New York or the Mississippi at New Orleans. I think that's a little overkill myself. Neighborhoods need sidewalks. We need bicycle paths. And I've been reading lately in the paper about all the work that the Joseph Floyd Manor needs. Now, I know that isn't road work, but it is county financing. And I would like to think that in some of this fiscal responsibility for taxes being raised, that something like the Joseph Floyd Manor should be considered as being probably, I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it needs to be totally rebuilt. So I just want to thank you all for your service, and thank you for listening to me tonight.
Cravonda Forrest Simmons, followed by Michael Muley.
Members of Charleston County Council, my name is Cravonda Forrest Simmons, and I serve as the Director of Inclusion at Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. There are many commenters here tonight, so I will be brief. Charleston Trident Association of Realtors and our nearly 7,000 members would like to thank you for putting the transportation sales tax on the ballot. This will be transformative for our community, and we cannot accomplish it without you. Since 2004, the transportation sales tax has been a success throughout our county. From providing new roads and bridges to protecting our natural resources through the Greenbelt program. And with the new funding, we will have the first rapid transit system in South Carolina. This moment has been years in the making, and we want to thank you for being deliberate, thoughtful, and providing voters the opportunity to have a voice in our future. Charleston Trident Association of Realtors appreciates the work that you've done, and we support the continuation of the transportation sales tax. Thank you.
Michael Muley, followed by Faith Rivers James.
Good evening, Council. I want to thank you. I know oftentimes people who come here don't say that to you, but thank you. Thank you for offering solutions to the significant issues our community faces. Thank you for the 25,000 acres of green space that you all have preserved through the transportation sales tax. Thank you for the 12,000 publicly accessible acres of green space. Thank you for the 6,000 wetland acres that you have preserved with the transportation sales tax. Thank you for the 200+ infrastructure improvement projects that you all have delivered with the transportation sales tax. Thank you for the sidewalks, the neighborhood roads that have been paved and preserved. And thank you from the transportation sales tax, and thank you as a West Ashley resident for completing the Glen McConnell expansion under budget and ahead of schedule, despite the pandemic and the delays that that caused. Thank you for the rest of the 2016 projects being underway right now. Thank you for this referendum, which I proudly support and encourage fellow residents to vote for. And thank you for putting the most money ever dedicated for green space preservation, because it takes dollars, not percentages, to preserve land. Thank you for working towards stopping West Ashley and North Charleston from being the parking lot for Charleston County traffic with this referendum. Thank you again for offering solutions to problems, not kicking the can down the road anymore. Thank you.
Faith Rivers James, followed by Susie Carlson.
Good evening. My name is Faith Rivers James, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Coastal Conservation League. The Conservation League urges Charleston County residents to vote no on the sales and use tax referendum. This deceptive referendum lays out a path for a destructive roadway that voters should reject. This old-style freeway includes 2 new bridges across the Stono River, and it will destroy precious natural spaces, 38 acres of wetlands, which each hold 1.5 million acres of floodwater, and 46 acres of James Island County Park. This roadway will introduce more sprawl and rural gentrification across our sea islands. The 526 extension would displace homes and businesses in historic communities like Geddes, Crosscut, and Ferguson Village. The route cuts right through the marsh along Delaney Drive. And this would destroy the way of life for an entire family that has lived on that land for generations. Collectively, it would result in takings, partial and full, of 92 parcels of property, forever altering our community. All the while some claim that the extension is about traffic safety and not a gold rush of real estate development opportunities. But I tell you that having grown up in the 4-mile community of Mount Pleasant, at the other end of 526, our community was not made safer, it was made less safe by 526, because it led to hazardous construction, decades of road widenings, eminent domain takings of homes and businesses, and dangerous intersections along high traffic corridors. New interstates don't solve traffic, they bring more traffic. Ask us in Mount Pleasant. So we ask that you will give us an opportunity for better green space at the right percentage. Thank you.
Susie Carlson, followed by Pat Welsh.
Hi, my name is Susie Carlson, and I'm an attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center here in Charleston. The county has presented voters with an all-or-nothing choice. The referendum ties a vote for the Greenbelt program to a vote for a vaguely presented category of transportation-related projects, which, unbeknownst to the average voter, includes Mark Clark. By doing so, it is holding voters hostage. This ballot does not comply with South Carolina law. In 2004, then Attorney General Henry McMaster was asked whether a Charleston County sales tax referendum could combine the Mark Clark extension with a Greenbelt initiative in a single vote. The answer was clearly no. But today, the county is doing precisely that, and therefore illegally influencing the public to vote in a certain way. To make matters worse, the county fails to inform voters that at least a third of the sales tax funds, and likely more, will be used solely for the extension project. In fact, the ballot makes no mention at all of Mark Clark, nor does it disclose the fact that this highway will be prioritized over other much-needed road improvement projects. This is especially concerning because the county has already failed to complete all but one of the projects from the 2016 sales tax. General principles of election law require transparency with the voting public, but the stark omission of Mark Clark on the ballot fails to provide voters with the ability to make an informed decision in the upcoming election. If the county is so confident that citizens support the extension, it should have no problem clearly laying out its plans on Election Day. Charleston County Council members were elected to represent the voices and opinions of its residents. But rather than proceed with transparency, the county is opting to conceal billion-dollar decisions and deceive the citizens they were supposed to represent. Thank you for your time.
Pat Welsh, followed by Brad Taggart.
So Yogi Berra allegedly said deja vu all over again, and that's where we are. This is, once more, we're back where we started with all these people. This time the 526, the $2.5 billion concrete cupcake, has been slathered with frosting and pretty sprinkles of other countywide projects. It's apparent that the frosting of the tasty projects in this referendum will be licked off, leaving only the half-baked 526 for all the billions of dollars that we're going to spend. Based on the county's 2016 previous failed attempt to bake a transportation solution, it's time to start from scratch using the ingredients of the existing infrastructure improvements the council left on the shelf in 2016 instead. Thank you.
Brad Taggart, followed by Brendan McGee.
There was a public feedback process to decide what projects would go on this ballot measure. And more citizens supported the Mark Clark completion than supported any other project across the county. Not only did a majority support the projects being included, but the percentages supporting was double digits higher than those opposed. The Mark Clark is absolutely justified, based on the numbers, to be on the ballot this November. The people that want the Mark Clark separated off had a chance to voice their opinion just like everybody else, and they came up short. They had help from the print media, from the well-heeled environmental nonprofits, and they still lost. But the average person just trying to get to work, just trying to live their life, they won. And God willing, they'll win again this November. Thank you. Vote yes.
Brendan McGee, followed by Lisa Jones.
Hi, my name is Brendan McGee. I live at 1510 Regimental Lane. I also happen to be running for State House District 119 this fall. Talk about public feedback. My district, 526 runs through the heart of District 119. I've knocked on over 1,500 doors in the past couple weeks, and the overwhelming majority, like 99% to 1, is against 526 and against this tax. So I've heard the argument that it's a life or death situation to build 526, but if that's the case, where has the hysteria been to complete Main and 17, a project that's been delayed for over a decade? If you want to talk about danger, try driving around there at any time in the afternoon. Or adding an additional lane on Maybank exiting onto the Stono Bridge. Certainly if these two projects alone were completed, it would have a massive effect on relieving congestion in our area. I've also heard the argument that if we don't act now, we will lose out on hundreds of millions of dollars in state funding. But that's just a false narrative used to scare people. If the state deemed 526 a matter of life and death, we could certainly be able to advocate for even more dollars than we're getting now. The 2016 sales tax runs through 26. Before another 25 years, sales tax is considered, public trust must be restored. Projects promised as part of the 2016 sales tax need to be completed first. 526 will destroy 70 acres of marsh, parks, homes, and neighborhood, not to mention cost $300 million per mile. Imagine putting that same $3 billion to improving our existing infrastructure. I urge you to vote no.
Lisa Jones, followed by Susan McLaughlin.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lisa Jones. Thank you so much for your service to Charleston County. I really appreciate it. I'm here tonight on behalf of A Better Charleston County. We're a group of community and local business leaders and concerned citizens opposed to the 2024 half-cent sales tax referendum. We're against the tax because we're not impressed with how our current tax is being spent. Charleston County's current tax rate is the highest in the state, 9%. And we've had record levels of inflation over the past couple of years, and yet the county still struggles financially despite these numbers. It seems to me there should be a windfall of tax dollars right now to get the projects done. And yet that continues to be a problem. So we have no evidence that our tax dollars are being spent wisely. We've seen one project completed since the tax passed in 2016. The Maintenance 17 project that just broke ground has been stripped of a key pedestrian safety feature, and the county admitted that maintaining it required a level of expertise that you just don't have. So my question is, how are you going to oversee a $3 billion project that's 9.5 miles if you don't have that level of expertise to oversee a pedestrian lane? The county is telling us that this new tax, and yes, it is a new tax, otherwise we wouldn't be here today, that it will increase safety and fix traffic problems. If that's the case, why haven't the other two taxes done those things? This tax is an overall reduction to green space and transit when you look at rising cost and inflation and real estate prices, and to say that it is not is disingenuous. I also just want to say 526 is not on the ballot. It's not on the ballot. In fact, none of the projects are on the ballot. That's why we think it is not a fair representation of what we're actually voting on. So thank you for hearing our concerns.
Thank you. Susan McLaughlin, followed by William Simpson.
Hello, I'm Susan McLaughlin, and I'm a resident of Johns Island, and I will be voting no on the referendum. I think it is unfortunate that as council members, you didn't have the courage to tell taxpayers that almost half the money raised by this 25-year 0.5% sales tax will go to fund one highway project, a 9-mile stretch of highway to extend 526 to Johns Island. Instead, you chose to hide behind language that makes it sound like you intend to fix every bridge, highway, and road, plus improve mass transit, bike and pedestrian areas, and preserve green space. Who wouldn't be willing to vote for this? In fact, what you have put together is a plan to deceive taxpayers into voting for your pet project, the extension of 526. Very few of the projects described by your language will ever be completed, but the taxpayers, after the costs escalate, will be on the hook for paying the full cost of your pet project to the detriment of almost every other road improvement in the county. You didn't dare to be honest because you knew taxpayers wouldn't vote for this, knowing their communities and local roads will get very little of this funding. And as for Jenny and Joe, there are signs all up and down Maybank Highway and all over Johns Island opposing this tax. Did you bother to talk to your constituents, or were you just hoping to deceive them? I live on Seabrook, and there would be plenty of signs out there if we were permitted to put them up. Thank you.
William Simpson, followed by H. Adam Friend.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I will not repeat what has already been said many times. Vote no.
H. Adam Friend, followed by Chip Richter.
Well, I think you guys are all used to me up here by now. I started this coming up mainly for road safety on Woodland Shores Road and trying to fight for somebody who got injured on my road, and you guys did come through for us there. You guys helped get speed humps on my road, and we benefited from that. So you guys do have the capability of making really good, sound decisions. I hope only for the better of the people. It was never done for me. I may have put my face up here and put my time into it and fought for it, but it was never for me. And in the same token, when then to be asked by other people on county council to then support something for them, a quid pro quo, I would call it. I'm not that type of person. It's not me that's up here talking that I want something from you and I deserve this, or these people don't and I want whatever. It's not about that. We are all here as people. I have a vote. you have a vote. We're all equal. None of us are different. And transparency is very important to me. And I've been digging, and unfortunately, the farther I get into digging, I've found out so much that I wish I didn't have to see. And I think those of you in council know exactly where I've been because you've been there with me and you've seen me. And, you know, I'm not going to be here and just berate everything I've seen, but maybe I'm just naive to think that America runs differently, that big business isn't what's running and dominating and making all the decisions. But in fact, that's what I'm seeing. And I think some of you have been influenced unduly by that power that they wield. And I just hope that you guys, when this gets voted down, will come back to the table and not go after our money in our homes, but you'll come back and make this referendum something that we actually can get behind. Thank you.
Chip Richter, followed by Glenda Miller.
Hi, Chip Richter, Johns Island resident and avid cyclist. I won't repeat what everybody has said before me. I do plan to vote no, in part because of the lack of transparency, in part because it seems that the emphasis is on the Mark Clark and not upgrading the existing road infrastructure, which if you're going to increase ingress onto Johns Island, you need to deal with that, I think, first. And so that is the reason that I plan to vote no. Thank you.
Glenda Miller, followed by Paul McLaughlin.
Glenda Miller, Johns Island. We've pretty much covered the transparency issue, so I'll move on to some other questions that I have. At a recent town hall meeting, Joe Boykin said the 2016 sales tax wasn't bonded, which is why the county's been so slow in completing projects. I reviewed the ordinance, and it does indicate that it was bonded for $200 million. So I'm wondering where that money may have gone. In addition, we were told at the town hall that the tourists would pay the majority of this tax. I had some engineers and mathematicians run the numbers, and it appears that they will pay approximately a third of the tax. So I'm wondering if you all could share your data with us that shows that the majority will be paid by the tourists. And when do you intend to announce that the 526 Parkway is going to terminate on River Road at the two exits on River Road, with everyone trying to get to Maybank Highway to either go across the Stono or down Maybank into Johns Island? This explains why the mayor of Charleston supports the project. He knows it will not terminate at Calhoun and Courtney Streets in front of the medical district and the Children's Hospital. And there are no funds to address this type of boondoggle. So really, the project will be reduced in scope to Johns Island, which should reduce the cost. If this is the county's top priority, have none of you gone on 526 East, the Don Holt and Westmoreland bridges, the exit ramp for 526 East or West to 26 West? If this is the Parkway's priority, either we're experiencing a lie or we're assumed to be stupid.
Paul McLaughlin, followed by Gray Gowder.
Good evening. I'm Paul McLaughlin, and I live on Baywood Drive on Seabrook. Let me begin by expressing a disappointment in our local leaders, Mr. Boynton, Ms. Honeycutt, and in this whole matter. As a member of Preserve Seabrook, leader of Preserve Seabrook, we will be recommending to our membership that they vote no on this project. There's a couple of points that haven't been talked about, is that in this project, once it begins, the full faith and credit of the county is going to be on the line. And people don't know, when they say that, that means us. And I took a look at some other major road projects across the country to see what happens versus when you compare what the budget estimate is versus what the actual cost is. And one notable project was the Big Dig in Boston. That was only 190% over budget. Who's going to come up and have to come up and pay that money? All of us. You've pledged our tax dollars to whatever the cost is once that begins. The second thing is, are we so blind to see what's going on in the world right now? In the past 2 weeks, 2 communities in 2 areas of this country have been wiped out. We face a much bigger existential problem in terms of flooding. And this money should be used to try to help mitigate and prevent things that we've seen in western North Carolina and through Florida. What are we going to do? What do we do when the next storm, big storm comes and wipes us out? We're going to be ill prepared. We couldn't get the project done by tomorrow, but it's coming. Look at where we're located. Look at the problems we already have getting around town when the roads are flooded. And you're going to spend money on a project that's going to make things worse? I don't understand the rationale. It makes no sense to me. We should be fixing the flooding first. That's the ultimate goal that we should be all working towards. Thank you very much.
Greg Gowder, followed by Diamond Curry.
Good evening, Greg Gowder. I live in West Ashley in Parkwood Estates. Thank you for hearing all of the voices here tonight. I'm fortunate enough to be the 6th generation of my family to grow up in Charleston County, and having that privilege allows me to have a different perspective in terms of time scales of how things have changed just by hearing what my grandparents, my parents have told me about their experience here. They told me about the incredible transit system with buses and trolleys and ferries and a robust train station that used to serve downtown Charleston. They told me about how we lost all of that over time as we moved towards sprawl, as we started to change our priorities. They told me about this grand project that's been talked about for longer than I've been alive called 526, and how this particular extension is something that was considered a part of that and still is not relevant or needed in this community. And they talked about the really, really positive thing that was created, the green belt, which I'm deeply disappointed to see tied to this particular bill. If the Greenbelt was standing on its own as a tax referendum, I would gladly support that, because we need to consider living infrastructure as a part of our future here. So instead of just building another road that in a generation or two will be underwater, how about we start investing in the things that will provide resilience to the very communities that need our help as the next generation confronts the very real climate and flooding issues that will face this community. Thank you.
Diamond Curry, followed by David Quick.
Good evening. My name is Diamond Curry. You all have seen me a million times, but I'm here on a representative capacity for the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce as their manager of government relations. I'd first like to start off by saying thank you to the council for moving forward to put this on the ballot and allowing voters to vote on this referendum that can improve a number of things. Secondly, as far as micro-critiquing past referendums from 2016 or 2024, I'm not interested in doing that, first because a number of you weren't even on council, and secondly, you can't shoulda, woulda, coulda. I mean, you could, but you wouldn't change anything. What's most important is talking about today and the fact that we finally have an opportunity to improve an interstate that's been talked about for over 40 years, as well as doing other projects like contributing to CARTA, which allows for other modes of transportation as well. So thank you for moving forward, and we're looking forward to voting to pass the referendum.
David Quick, followed by Daniel Brock.
Hi, my name is David Quick. I live at 1502 Village Square in Mount Pleasant. And I will say I did not take 526 to get here, and I never do. I don't work for the Chamber of Commerce, and I don't work for a realty association, and I'm not a PR person from a highway road building construction firm who's working the media in the background. I'm just a volunteer for my town on a commission, and I pick up litter, and I plant trees, and I love my community. And I'm normally not against a sales tax if it's for something that's for worthy projects. I voted for the sales tax in 2004. Yes, I'm old enough to have done that. And I did not regret those votes. Good work happened. A lot of green space was saved. But this time around, the sales tax, which is a regressive tax, it hurts less privileged people more than it does privileged people, prioritizes an interstate extension by an entity that has failed to deliver all but one of their projects in 2016. So y'all have lost my trust, and I think you've lost the trust of a lot of other folks. And a highway extending over the Stono River twice is basically out of y'all's league. That's something that you know, federal government would probably be more apt to carry out, but y'all can't do that. Let's focus on the things that you can do. The risk and the cost of 526 are too much. It comes at the expense of other worthy projects, other road projects that are possible. CARTA, green space, all of these will be at risk when this $3 billion plus project goes.
Thank
Vote
you.
no, y'all. Vote no.
Daniel Brock, followed by Emily Crevetti.
Good evening, Council. Daniel Brock here. Good evening, Charleston County neighbors. There are plenty of reasons, and this is apparently a hot take tonight, there are plenty of reasons to like this referendum. Record Greenbelt funds, record transit funds, and 13 projects across the county listed in the approval ordinance. I have lived in Mount Pleasant since before Johnny Dodds Boulevard was improved with sales tax funding. It was a mess then, and I can only imagine the chaos that would be in place if that infrastructure were not in place today. So for the reasons that I mentioned, and for the traffic relief that Johns Island and West Ashley need today, I support this referendum. One other note, it should be noted that every 2004 sales tax project is now complete, and every 2016 project is either complete, underway, or can be otherwise addressed. With the pay-as-you-go model, the revenue is spent as it's collected, and the county is doing its job. Thanks.
Emily Crevetti, followed by Adrian Kane.
Hi, my name is Emily Crevetti, and I live at 2039 Unit D, Rondo Street. So this lovely parkway, or whatever, is going to go right by my house. So you've heard all of the arguments for voting no as far as the impact to the environment, to, you know, all the other things that this is going to hurt. 2 bridges over the Stono River, hello. Anyway, I'm going to talk about my little world. My little world is, this is going to affect me. I'm going to listen to construction for however long. I'm going to have this thing going right by my house because it was moved so that y'all didn't take my house by eminent domain. So I'm going to have all that, and then I'm going to have the pollution, and both the air pollution and the noise pollution. That being said, I am happy to vote for something if I know what the heck I'm voting for. And this is not clear, and that, shame on y'all. So it's a case of I'm going to vote no. I've encouraged everybody that I know to vote no because it is fiscally irresponsible to the point of being egregious to pay $2.4 million for 9 miles of road, ladies and gentlemen. Vote no.
Adrian Kane, followed by Jimmy Kerr.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you for your leadership and your diligence to this project. My name is Adrian Kane, and I've been in front of you many times. This evening, I'm going to talk to you from a little different vantage point. I grew up on a rural working farm in West Virginia. Yes, I'm a Cumia. I've been here 20 years. I've watched our region thrive and grow during that time, but have suffer from the lack of infrastructure investment. Some numbers: 220 million, 420 million, 750 million, 2 billion. There's a reason this project is as expensive as it is, because a group of special interest advocacy groups veiled in conservation have made it their mission to drive up costs, to litigate, to suppress voter rights, to do whatever necessary to fill their coffers, to fill their mission to defeat this project and projects like it around the region. Let's be honest why we're sitting here today looking at a $2 billion price tag. Let's put the fault at the feet and the shoulders of the people that for more than 3 decades have challenged this project and projects like it around the region. We have a housing and infrastructure crisis in the region, and we need this council and those in this community to step forward as leaders and bring solutions to the problem. My grandfather used to say, if you bring a problem without a solution, you're simply noise. You're adding to the irrelevancy of your organization, grasping for straws for your influence. The reason they're grasping for straws, they've destroyed any credibility. They've destroyed the opportunity for collaboration because they have no solutions. They simply have opposition for the sake of opposition, litigation for the sake of litigation, litigation for extracting voters' rights to vote on this project. The 6 of you that had the courage to step forward to vote for this project now, at a critical time for our region, we need this vote to continue, and I intend to vote yes for this initiative in November. Thank you again for your leadership, your dedication, your steadfast opportunity to advance our region forward. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Jimmy Kerr.
Praise the Lord. My name is Jimmy Kerr. I live on Cannon Lane on Johns Island, and I've lived on Johns Island for most of my 81 years. I'm a businessman in Charleston County, investment, real estate, and property management. Part of my property on Johns Island would be affected by 526. I am voting no, but I have some questions briefly I want to ask, and I'm not going to challenge anybody's personalities or challenge anybody's interest. I'm not just going to attack anybody. I'm going to ask these questions. We need an update. Before the last election, a couple of county council members and the mayor of Charleston had a PR opportunity out at the food line on Johns Island, and he was singing Kumbaya about now finally we've got county and city on the same sheet of music. The Maybank Highway East, which is from River Road to the bridge, is now going to be done. That means the southern pitchfork, that means the extra lane on Maybank Highway. That's since the last election. We'd like an update on that, please. Secondly, as I was interested in thinking about this, I was saying, why hadn't the county laid out a priority list showing the list, the priorities, the cost, and against the income stream coming in off the half-cent sales tax, what timeline was going to be done on, so people would understand what they're voting for. Then I realized when the referendum was published, it's because there's only one priority, and that's 526. If all $5.4 billion is needed for 526, yes, it'll be spent there. Lastly, if I ask this question, if 526 passes, will any of the funds that have been collected to date, several hundred millions of dollars, be used for 526 or spent to complete some of the projects that were passed in the last referendum? Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. That's it. Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for attending this public hearing.
I signed up to speak.
Pardon me?
I signed up to speak. My name didn't get called.
What is your name?
Fred Palm.
Mr. Palmer, you're signed in on the public comments, not this public hearing. We'll call you when we get to the public comments.
We're going to do the same thing again?
Yes, sir.
I thought we consolidated.
This is a special public hearing. We're going to take about a 5-minute break to return this room back to handle for our council meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming.
no police report, there's no nothing.
Good evening, everyone. We have our council meeting, and we also have public comments. First, we're going to have the opening of our council meeting and do the items 1 through 3, and then we will go to public comments. So the first item for Charleston County Council meeting, Freedom of Information Act.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meeting was posted and agendas were distributed to news media and those requesting notification.
Thank you. Minutes of September 24.
Move to approve.
Any questions or additions?
Recommendations to the clerk and her staff.
Thank you.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item number 3, recognitions and resolutions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Recognition for Charleston County Sheriff's Office 50-year employee, Sally Surset. Ms. Surset, would you come forward? And is Sheriff Graziano here? She told me she had another meeting to be at. So some other people are coming. Y'all all come forward. Thank y'all. Come forward, please do.
A resolution of Charleston County Council honoring Charleston County Sheriff's Office employee Sally Surstedt on 50 years of public service. Whereas Charleston County Council recognizes that the foundation of our community is grounded in those who give of themselves selflessly to help others. And whereas Charleston County Council from time to time has the privilege of recognizing an individual who exemplifies such a commitment. And whereas Sally Surstedt was born and raised in Charleston County, South Carolina, is a graduate of Rivers High School, the College of Charleston, and worships at St. Matthew's Lutheran Church, where she sings in the choir. And whereas Sally Surstedt began her career with Charleston County Sheriff's Office in 1974. And whereas Sally Surstedt has served under 6 different sheriffs, including Sheriffs Eddie Carnarens, Frank West, Chuck Dolly, Michael O'Dowd, Al Cannon, and Kristen Graziano. And whereas Sally Surstedt has served the Sheriff's Office in a number of different capacities, including Tax Cashier 3, Account Clerk 1, Tax Research Specialist, Delinquent Tax Manager, Staff Auditor, and Auditor 2. And whereas Sally Surstedt graduated from the County Auditors, Treasurers, and Tax Collectors Academy in 1991. And whereas over the course of her career, Sally Surstedt has received 14 letters of appreciation, 3 letters of commendation, and was selected as the Charleston County Employee of the Quarter for the second quarter in 1990. Now therefore be it resolved by Charleston County Council that Sally Surstedt be commended for outstanding and professional service to her community, and that the genuine appreciation of Charleston County Council be extended to her on behalf of all the citizens of this county. Charleston County Council, Herbert R. Sass III, Chairman, October 15th, 2024.
Yes. You are the first person to be honored with a new coin from Charleston County.
Oh, thank you.
And would you mind turning around, and you gentlemen and ladies, would y'all come all up here so we can get a good picture? And do you have anything you'd like to say?
50 years goes by very quickly. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to work for Charleston County, for the Sheriff's Office. And I have met so many wonderful people and formed so many friendships, long-lasting, people that are retired, we still keep in touch and all that. So, like I said, I feel truly blessed. And thank y'all so much for this. I'll treasure it.
Thank you. We are blessed. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to disband this county council meeting, and we're going to go to our regular public comments.
Okay, we have 15 people signed up. The first person is Anthony G. Bryant, followed by Wendell Riley, and then Richard Habersham.
What do you say when you start your consultant business in '93 and you go to North Charleston and see a police officer in North Charleston and they tell you, or the man that knew where you live at, that from 2015 to 2023, there's no record? Now, I take all my stuff directly because I know I raised a lot of hell, right? And I called Marquille's office, and he didn't return the phone call. No, he wouldn't. And it became clear that my speech, my redress of grievance, and my assembly is not held in the highest esteem in Columbia. But in November, there will be the death penalty issue. The governor will sign the death for somebody. 13 counties don't have an OBGYN. They can't deal with anything with women because there's no doctor to even deal with it. Many of the counties don't even have the appropriate school systems. And so therefore the causation of said arrest of somebody or their persecution, and how can Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham and all them say they're Christians in this state where Christ was state executed by Pontius Pilate, brought to by his own people? How can you call yourself a Christian in November when some man or woman or child on an economic crime in most cases in the state will be executed? And secondly, does the execution deter the crime? It doesn't deter the crime. There's just more punishment. So I can't be a Christian, not at my tongue, and support the death penalty.
Wendell Riley, Richard Habersham, Lee Miller.
Thank you. My name is Wendell Riley, and I'm a Georgia resident with a second home on Deweese Island at 103 Deweese Inlet Drive, and I'd like to read from the following letter. Dear council members, we are 8 past presidents of the Deweese Island POA, representing more than 15 years of association leadership, and we are writing to lend our support for the proposed text amendments currently under consideration. Short-term renting on Deweese was an established practice for over 25 years, until July 2018, when the county passed an ordinance effectively banning STR on the island without input from the community. The 2018 ordinance and subsequent fight over STR damaged the fabric of our community, leading to excessive legal fees, broken friendships, and mistrust of island governance. And the county attorneys made matters worse by listening to a few loud voices who oppose STR of any sort and not to the POA or the broader island community. Please do not make that mistake again. According to every island-wide survey conducted by the POA since 2018, including the most recent taken last month, a solid majority, usually around 2/3 of our community, has consistently supported short-term renting of homes with reasonable restrictions. Modest STR activity, without the use of Airbnb or the like, we believe will enhance our community and promote property values by introducing prospective new homeowners to our beautiful island and our strong conservation ethos. The proposed text amendments amount to much more than a legal settlement. They represent the hard-earned results of considerable negotiation and difficult compromise within our community. We think your attorneys got it right this time, and we urge you to follow their recommendation by adopting the amendments as proposed.
Richard Habersham.
Thank you.
Lee Miller, Chris John.
He's a tough act to follow, and I'm diametrically opposed. I've been on Deweese for 20 years. My family has loved our island. It's a barrier island. When we bought property on Deweese, we signed a conservancy agreement with DNR. to protect a barrier island and to establish a place where man could live with flora and fauna and take care of one of the precious places that God has given us. I am violently opposed to STRs. I feel that it will terribly compromise our infrastructure. We have a limited number of staff. We have a limited number of houses. We have a limited amount of water, and having STRs on the island would be a total and complete disaster, because it would bring more people to the island who are not committed to what Deweese Island was developed for. I have made every effort to talk, as have many of our fellow owners, to members of the council. I've emailed, I have attended every single meeting that we have had, and with one exception, and have not, I don't think we have been heard. We have had very few moments where we have been able to really discuss what has gone on and how this situation has come to be. So, thank you.
Ma'am, would you state your name and your address?
I'm sorry?
Would you state your name and your address, please?
My name is Lee Miller, and I live at 271 Pelican Flight Drive. About 50% of the time. It's a second home.
Thank you. Richard Habersham, Chris John, Kendall John.
Good evening. I'd like to thank this council, the Greenbelt team, and Low Country Land Trust. You have made it possible for the Phillips community to save a piece of Charleston County history. The Phillips community have taken ownership of the Rutledge tomb. And as today, we have partnership up with Clemson University, Boone Plantation, Mount Pleasant Historical Commission, and Historical Charleston to restore this piece of history. We with our partners, we hope to make Charleston County proud of this project. Secondly, I want to talk about Highway 41 just a little bit. Lately, I've heard a lot and read a lot about the Highway 41 project and why it has not started yet. We applaud council for adopting the Highway 41 compromise, and we don't hold the council accountable for the hold-up on this project. But I do hold Mount Pleasant and the resident of the new subdivision on Highway 41 for the hold-up. So please stay the course with the Highway 41 compromise. Thank you.
Chris John, Kendall John, Jeffrey Stallings.
Good evening. I'm Chris John. My permanent home is 247 Pelican Flight Drive on Deweese Island. I first of all wanted to thank, although he's not here tonight, Councilman Kabrowski for the heartfelt speech he gave at the last meeting in opposition, and also thank Councilman Darby for voting his conscience as well. There are many things I could talk to you about on the Deweese issue, and I have, as you know. But at the last meeting, during your discussion, there were questions asked about DNR's opinion. I'm afraid at that time you were given incomplete information on this. In the interest of time, I cannot read their entire resolution from July 14th of 22. I do have copies if you'd like them, but I will read you some pertinent sections of it, which, to my knowledge, continues to be their position. Rentals of a dwelling unit for any duration do not, standing alone, violate the conservation easement's prohibition of commercial activity. That's the part that you heard. The last paragraph, the department will continue to monitor Deweese Island under the conservation easement and will enforce the conservation easement as necessary to preserve the island's conservation values and natural resources. As set forth in the conservation easement, the department cautions that no act or use that is incompatible with the preservation and maintenance of the island in its natural state will be allowed. The proposal that you are about to vote on, in certainly my opinion, is completely incompatible with the preservation and maintenance of the island. These changes are so broad and so unregulated, allowing every single house to rent up to 56 days. It is completely incompatible, and I will ask once again you, and I will ask the Department of Natural Resources as well, to continue to monitor this and to make sure that the island is compatible with the preservation and maintenance of the island in its natural state. That is why we are here. Thank you.
Kendall John, Jeffrey Stallings, Susan Porter.
Good evening. My name is Kendall John. I am the daughter of full-time residents of Dewey's Island. I had the privilege of living on the island myself for some time, and now I am an employee of the city of Charleston. I am here to urge the county to continue to prohibit short-term rentals on Dewey's Island, as I have witnessed the environmental effects of such activities continuing anyway. I have seen people trampling dunes, dogs chasing endangered shorebirds, and litter left behind on what is supposed to be a protected island. I fear that in addition to the environmental impact, that SDRs would mean sacrificing long-term community in the name of short-term profit. We have an Isle of Palms, we have a Folly Beach, and we saw those communities forever changed by prioritizing rentals and tourism. We do not have another Dewey's Island, so please help us protect it. Thank you.
Jeffrey Stallings, Susan Porter, Alicia Riley.
Good evening. I am Jeffrey Stallings. My wife Sally and I live at 199 Lake Timacow Lane, Dewey's Island. Upon reviewing the ZLDR amendments packet and the council video recordings to date, there are a total of 108 public comments or written statements against STRs, while only 60 individuals have been in support of the proposed text amendments as written. You have asked for input from the community, yet you appear to repeatedly ignore it. Additionally, your lack of discussion and transparency appears to present the picture that you have not read, listened to, or are completely ignoring the extensive opposition to these opposed or proposed text amendments as written. Furthermore, as Mr. John has just indicated, Ms. Ham appears to have provided the council with an incomplete and possibly misleading summary of the DNR's oversight and guidelines for Dewey's Island. I would like to thank both Mr. Kobrovsky and Mr. Darby for their support in the opposition of these proposed text amendments as written. To the remainder of the council, if you continue to approve these proposed amendments, it leads us, your constituents, to logically conclude the following. Number one, you are setting a precedence in giving permission to violate and ignore a conservation easement, which in my opinion is equally important no matter who has access. It is set up to protect an area perpetually. Yes, we are private. That makes absolutely no difference. Number two, you appear to be disregarding the revised Charleston County Comprehensive Plan that you adopted on the 21st of May this year. Number three, you will be supporting the catastrophic and irreversible destruction of the Dewey's Island ecosystem. Number four, you are intentionally negligent in respecting the concerns of the residents of Dewey's Island. And number five, you will be directly opposing the DNR guidelines, opening the pathway for commercial use of Hyler House, essentially creating a hotel to the general public. Thank you.
Susan Porter, Alicia Riley, Esther Doyle.
Thank you. My name is Susan Porter. I'm the General Counsel for the Department of Natural Resources. I'm here honestly to answer any questions that the County Council may have of me regarding our conservation easement and how DNR has monitored it in the past. And we have asked and met with the county staff for a few amendments that we felt did propose problems with the conservation easement. And again, I'll be happy to stay and answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Alicia Riley, Esther Doyle, David McIntyre.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Over the past several months, a clear message has been sent by this community. The text amendment is not in the best interest of the residents it will impact. Despite hearing from numerous community members, this amendment has continued to move forward at each reading. We've spoken up, we've asked questions, and we've raised significant concerns, yet none of them have been meaningfully addressed. The amendment as it stands has many issues. It's not consistent with zoning procedures. It doesn't align with the comprehensive plan, and it singles out Dewey's Island while leaving other areas like Goat Island untouched. This is not a fair or a just approach, and it's certainly not in the spirit of transparency or equal treatment under the law. What's more troubling is that the purpose of these amendments remains unclear. There has been no public record of why these changes are necessary, and it appears that a few stand to benefit at the expense of the entire community. This is not how decisions should be made. I'm here tonight, along with many others, to ask you to stop, breathe. Please listen to the voices of the community and take a step back. We need clarity, we need answers, and we need a process that respects both the will of the people and the preservation of our natural environment. Don't let this amendment pass first without ensuring that the concerns of so many have been heard and addressed. Thank you.
Esther Doyle, David McIntyre, Fred Palm.
I'm Esther Doyle. I live at 293 Old House Lane, Deweese. This is my third presentation to this commission, a commission who largely, I believe, are not hearing its constituents and apparently running from a lawsuit that was filed by Deweese part-time homeowners, our POA president of all people, Brian Hahn, our treasurer, Brett Barker, and Craig Justice, representing Charlotte's Pearl. A fourth party in this movement is another relatively new part-time owner who bought her house specifically to rent, and is one who has solicited from her attorney this so-called text amendment to Charleston County's STR ordinance. This is hardly a text amendment. It is practically a full rewrite of this ordinance, which completely destroys Deweese's environmentally protective zoning of NR to the wide-open least protected zoning designation of ZLDR. Another tactic this group has taken is pitting full-time homeowners against part-time homeowners, the old divide and conquer tactic. It is we full-time homeowners who are present that have to endure the negative consequences of STRs. And to add insult to injury, we're the ones having to pay for the consequences of STRs due to the pressures on our fragile infrastructure, including our ferry cost and repairs, limited water supply, and environmental damage, not to speak of loss of peace, quiet, and tranquility for our residents and our wildlife population. These part-timers do not experience this because their homes are filled with renters who have been known to invite large numbers of their friends over, take over our community center facilities for entertaining their guests, throw trash on our roads and the beach, overfish our seafood populations, disrupt the peace and quiet by running around our few roads all hours of the night with blasting radios and shrieking conversation, to name a few. As I mentioned in the past, in summary, buyers of property on Deweese signed on to the acceptance of a DNR conservation easement. Thank you.
David McIntyre, Fred Palm, Barbara McIntyre.
Good evening. My name is David McIntyre. I am one of the number of the past presidents of the Deweese POA. My wife and I built the first house of the IPP development out there in 1992. We have been in love with this island for all these years. In fact, when I retired, we built a second home to live in full time that was not a beach house, but had some storage space where we could keep our things. In any case, I'd like to echo Wendell Riley's remarks. I think he was right on with the needs of the island, and I know you're hearing other stories here, but I'm not a person, we are probably unlikely to think ourselves of short-term renting, renting our home, but so many people that are owners on our island, as this has gone on over the years, originally rented so that they were suddenly exposed to this beautiful place. They liked it, they liked the principles, the ideals, and ultimately they bought in. Currently, we have in the neighborhood of 70 plus houses on the island. We have 150 lots. We have, the POA is currently actually owns about 30 empty lots. And in the interest of making this island successful financially and otherwise, we would like to expose it to more people and have them buy property and love the place and be good neighbors. And that's all I have to say.
Fred Palm, Barbara McIntyre, Peter Cotton.
Good evening. I'm sorry for getting out of turn on this one. The official environmental impact analysis for the Mark Clark shows the gridlock condition remains at 1%. Imagine if I offered you a cure for your congestion. The treatment, for 25 years, the treatment group gets the right drug and the placebo gets no treatment. And if the end of the period was 1%, you would conclude that this particular drug is ineffective. That's what's going on here. 526 produces a 1% difference between if it was built versus not built. So what you're doing is you're building congestion into the landscape. Later on, you'll sort out what happens with respect to the rest of the money that's left over for the 526. But one of the effects that will happen is because this particular project does not address the congestion and it remains, it will increase the developmental pressures on James and Johns Island. It will be the strategic necessity to build on in those particular places. Businesses, too, have uncontrolled movement costs. And I understand why the business community would want to have this done, because basically it's a road, and if you have congestion, we think that roads are going to fix the problem. That doesn't happen. And so what I think you're doing is just building in chaos and sclerosis into the system. Our problems are more fundamental. It lies within our government. And our fish does stink from the head. And so I ask that you fix what you are proposing to do. Thank you.
Barbara McIntyre, Peter Cotton, Ann Andrum.
Hi, my name is Barbara McIntyre, and I'm a permanent resident of Dewey's Island. And I am highly distressed about the disruption of the friendships and the quality of life that we are having because of this incident. And I would really like to have it approved simply so that it gets turned back over to the island owners so that we can work on that compromise together and go back where we were. I know we don't have to have 56 homes renting at one time. We have a board that will make rules about rentals, and we can control all of that. What we can't control is this wild theorizing about the terrible damages going to happen to our island if we don't do that. I see that. I can see why some people are afraid, because they're isolationists. They don't want other people around, okay? We can't live that way in the world, and we can't live that way on Dewey's and survive. We will lose our island, and we will lose all of our friendships, and it's worth it to me to come up here and ask you to please pass this so we get on to business on our own island with our own problem. Thank you.
Peter Cotton, Ann Andrum.
Good evening, my name is Peter Cotton. I live on Pelican Flight Drive, Dewey's Island, with my wife. We built the house 25 years ago. We are permanent residents, and I was the president of the POA board 5 years ago. I'm another one of the 8 presidents, past presidents, with signatures to the letter that Wendell Riley read to you. 6 of us are here tonight to ask you to pass this text amendment. We've heard from many people that this will allow unlimited, dangerous, catastrophic destruction to Dewey's Island. I can reassure you that that is not the case. We all love this island, and we will fight very hard to make sure that will not happen. I will tell you, remind you, for those who are not aware of it, that we had a survey of owners 3 weeks ago on the island. 70% were in favor of exploring limited short-term rental again. if you pass this amendment. We ask you to do so.
Ann Andrew?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm Ann Anderson. That's my writing that you're not able to see Anderson from. I live at my husband Jim and I live at 246 Old House Lane on Deweese Island and have lived there for 22 years. Jim and I are both past presidents that are here tonight and have agreed completely with Wendell's text. I would just like to read a little letter that I have written to the council, or some of the council, and posted on the comments. First of all, we have just here tonight a good representation of across the board of our ownership. And I believe from those who are concerned about the rental issues, we have 3 that are permanent residents here, and we have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the past presidents and that are here, but most of the small group of Deweese owners who have attended regularly the county commission and the public comments for the zoning commission are extremely vocal. However, those who are pleading against the recommendation from the zoning board do not represent the position of the majority of the owners on Deweese. The latest survey that came out, I believe, goodness, thank you. Obviously, I'm asking for your support.
That concludes public comment.
We also have several public hearings. First one, public hearing notice.
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, regarding an ordinance to repeal certain sections of the Charleston County Code of Ordinances to provide consistency with state law and to conform with current practice.
Nobody signed up for that one.
Okay.
Next, notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, prior to final action being taken to convey the real property listed below to the buyers listed below, 1980 Dogwood Road, Charleston, South Carolina 29414, to the Charleston Habitat for Humanity, 2225 Doris Drive, Charleston, South Carolina 29414, to WEH Incorporated, 7646 Allwood Avenue, North Charleston, South Carolina 29418, to Charleston Revival, 6306 Brant Street, North Charleston, South Carolina 29406, to Narrowgate, 9789 Peatwood Drive, Ladson, South Carolina 29406, to J&W Construction and Design LLC.
We have one person signed up, Anthony Bryant.
I definitely support all these purchases. I think it's really important. The county council stepped up and did the right thing. In terms of William Cogswell coming to you, you have a public hearing here, and we as the public are coming to say we support this. William Cogswell comes in here, and he's going to get a half-cent sales tax, or a TIF district approved, without doing this, right? Without coming and having a public discussion about what you're doing. I heard Teddy Pryor talk about the TIF and some friends of ours downtown, and the relief they would like to get You know, I got a tax bill here. Can I give you my tax bill right now for my business and get deferred? I mean, you're going to be issuing out tax bills to people. These people who are getting this property, they're going to get a tax bill, right? When they renovate this property, they're going to get a tax bill, right? They're going to get a tax bill and they have to pay it. So a billionaire waits on a school district that's broke, a city of Charleston that ain't got no right doing this, and a county that got a plethora of things going on to say, hey, you know, I'll buy the property after y'all give me all these incentives. You know, that's the only problem I got with it. Brantley Moody said, well, you know, how are we going to provide service for it? You know, Jenny Honeycutt asked some questions, and this is the first bite of the apple we're going to get, the last we're going to get. I mean, it's a different time period. In those TIF districts back in the 1980s, they weren't second member districts. There was no Justice Department saying that African Americans are disenfranchised to have an opinion about downtown Charleston's Vendue Inn and the waterfront park and all that. Well, there used to be some black folk down there riding bicycles.
Thank you. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the County Council of Charleston County on October 15th, 2024. The purpose of such public hearing is to consider an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and among CK Crosspoint 11 LLC and Charleston County.
We have two people signed up, Anthony G. Bryant and then Elizabeth Singleton.
Again, A+ for county council. A+ for county council. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, you know, when you provide public engagement with me, that's all I really need. I really don't care how you vote, right? I'm more concerned about that the public have an opportunity with one person here, and nobody here, to talk about how you're making your decisions. What we saw here today, but this person should be approved their money because they went through this process. They came here, they went through the process, and they exposed themselves to a denial, right? Or approval with condition, right? So the reason why I engage, and people say, why are you here all the time? We should all be here all the time. We should all be here all the time. It's our civic responsibility to be engaged and be involved. Whether you like what I say or not, as long as I say it, well, the police don't arrest me. But you should be able to come from Dewey's Island, and you should be able to come from Gadsden Green, or you should be able to come from Liberty Hill, wherever. And I encourage the people when they see me, oh, I saw you on video. I say, you come on, get on video too. Because it's important. And if our administrator, we have an administrative class on a local level, a county level, and a state level. And that's why William Cogswell is running this show on us. He's running this show on us. He said he's going to have affordable, he's going to have for at-risk, chronically housed people for 90 days. His family ain't going to be in. You're going to make a proposal for the homeless, at least live in one of them places they going to live at. I asked him that question at city council. That's why the governor got a problem with me, probably, because I'm against Facebook, Google, and any incentives given. Because the average person don't get no relief. They don't get any relief. And so if you're going to give some relief, give me some. Have a nice night.
Elizabeth Singleton.
Good afternoon. Apparently I got here a little late and was not able to speak on the tax issue, but I wanted to speak anyway. For 31 years, I've been coming back and forth the county council reference 526. Most of the people who had been coming are dead now. I plan to be around for quite some time. But furthermore, you keep reinventing the wheel. During this time, you've done a bridge, the Limehouse Bridge, with 2 lanes. No chance of getting John's Island and its additional islands off of the island in event of a hurricane. I don't know who all was here during Hugo. I was here for Gracie too. That's how long I've been around. But I'm telling you, you keep reinventing the wheel and not presenting solutions. I work plans and ops in the military, planning a field exercise, moving more than 25,000 troops, executing communications, and this would be a failure for 31 years. 31 years, you have no solution. The solution is not about a highway. It's infrastructure for the people. And there are no plans for that. You just want to build a bridge. You have no idea. I feel that you have no idea what you're up there to do. And I'm very disappointed to see that there are no true plans. None whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? Thank you. Next, we are going to reconvene our county council meeting, and we will have our special finance at the end. So in order to reconvene this county council meeting, Reverend Middleton, would you lead us in the prayer? And Mr. Moody, would you lead us in the pledge?
Let us pray. Eternal God, we bless your holy name, and we thank you for just life, health, and a reasonable portion of strength. We thank you, God, for Charleston County, and we ask you now, God, to just have mercy upon all of us. We ask your blessing upon our chairman, our county council members, our administrator, county government at large, those who protect and defend us. And then, God, we just ask that you continue to help us to move this county forward. And we thank you, God, for the celebration we heard tonight of the employee from the Sheriff's Department that has worked for 50 years, where individuals can't withstand or persevere for 50 days. It gives us hope that an individual can hold on and hold out in a position to try to do the right thing in various positions for over 50 years. That gives us hope that in the end, if we do the right thing, gracious justice and just things will happen around us, to us, and through us. And so for that, we say thank you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item, third reading ordinances. 4A, repealing sections of the Charleston County Code of Ordinances. Third reading, excuse me.
Yes, sir. An ordinance repealing certain sections of the Charleston County Code of Ordinances to provide consistency with state law and to conform with current practice. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Aye. Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Ordinance passes third reading with 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Next one, financial incentives for CK Checkpoint 11 LLC. Third reading.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Charleston County and CK Crosspoint 11 LLC, including any related or affiliated entities and any sponsor affiliates, collectively the company, whereby Charleston County will enter into a fee in lieu of taxes arrangement with the company, providing for payment by the company of certain fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for addition of the company property in a multi-county industrial business park, providing for the allocation of fee in lieu of taxes paid by Charleston County and Colleton County under the agreement for establishment of multi-county industrial business park and other matters relating thereto. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor? Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes third reading with 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Next one, second reading ordinances. I'd like to recognize our county attorney, Natalie Ham, for an update on discussions with DNR regarding the Deweese Island amendments.
Yes, sir. As you heard, Ms. Porter and I have met. We met with staff, and there are a couple of amendments that were proposed that staff does not have opposition to. I think that Andrea is going to give you a really quick overview of what those are.
Great.
There are just 3 sections.
that we're going to talk about. The first has to do with the Hyler House, which you heard a little bit about tonight in the public comments. These subsections 4A and B here were originally, in the current version, proposed to be deleted. After discussions with DNR, we are now proposing to keep them in. Basically what they say is that the Hyler House can only be rented to Deweese Island property owners and their guests, as well as the guests of the POA. And also that advertisement of short-term rentals of the Hyler House have to be done on the POA's internet platform only. That is to be consistent with the DNR conservation easement. And then the other two are under the list of proposed principal uses, so the main uses of the property. The first is here, subsection 7. We had originally proposed to allow retail sales limited to clothing or other goods offered for sale to Deweese Island owners or guests staying on the island as a principal or main use of a property. However, in discussion with DNR, that's not consistent with the conservation easement, so that is now proposed to be removed. And then subsection 14 regarding solar collectors. They were proposed to be a main use of a property, but after discussing with DNR, they shouldn't really be a main use of a property. They should be allowed as an accessory use to an already developed property. So you could have a solar collector on a house, or roof mounted or ground mounted or next to a utility, but it wouldn't allow things like solar farms. And so that is proposed as part of this change as well. And those are the only changes proposed.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Certainly, I am conflicted because hearing the residents and property owners from Deweese, I continue to try to be balanced and open, and definitely am in favor of doing what's best for the people who live over there and not imposing a paradigm on them that they don't want. So were the contemplated amendment changes agreed upon? Is this just through DNR, or is this something that has been bounced through the community and they also agree, or where are we?
So most of these changes were presented by the community to incorporate some of the things that they were already doing. DNR has been out there to do an inspection recently, I believe last week, and in an attempt to capture some of the things that they were already doing, the language didn't meet the necessary terms of the conservation easement. For instance, the residential sales, what DNR found out in its visit is that they're selling T-shirts to owners at cost, which is not considered retail sales. And so they're going to still be allowed to do that without this language. So these amendments we just wanted to make sure that they captured what the intent was of the homeowners. And we don't believe that they in any way violate what their intent was.
I don't want to speak too many times on the same thing, but I would like to have a clear understanding. I think the overarching issue was that the property owner association would have the power to then still govern themselves, decide on their own as it relates to what comes on the island, the types of short-term rentals, if they will, enable those to be more robust or less, or just thwart them all together. So that local decision-making would still lie within them, or would it still?
Absolutely, Reverend Middleton. That stays with the Property Owners Association, so that they essentially are given authorization to govern themselves.
Last thing I would like to say, because I would like to vote based on information. So voting to pass this along the third reading would not take away or strip away the opportunity of any property owner, even if they don't agree with short-term, but they can go to their property owner association meeting and vote their conscience there. If they're voted, if the majority rules, then the majority rules, and then that's the end of it. And so that does not impede their ability to still advocate on how they feel the character of Deweese should be.
Absolutely. These amendments that were presented here tonight are very minor and in consideration of what the homeowners are actually doing.
And then the last thing, as it relates to confusion about us being informed, are we now duly informed, or did we get just a little piece of the information, or were we given snippets just to influence us in one way, or are we fully abreast of what these changes contemplate?
I absolutely believe that you have been fully informed on all issues and related to this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the amendments.
Second.
But I would like to discuss, if that's okay. Do we need to take a vote on it first, Madam Clerk? Okay. So for discussion, is it appropriate right now to address Ms. Porter directly?
I believe that she has offered that to council. If the chairman authorizes it, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Thank you again, Ms. Porter, for being here. We appreciate your time. I know this is a long evening, but I do want to make sure that the residents of DeWeese that are here and that hear this later understand that we have read everything that comes to us. And it is my understanding, as you stand here as a representative of DNR, that as far as the preservation conservation easement goes that's monitored by DNR, these amendments all meet the requirements that are part of that. Is that correct?
Yes. I think there's some interpretation of some of the existing ordinance that would need to go further if there were some proposed actions. For example, the communications tower. It's my understanding that they're looking to put on a repeater type device that would assist with emergency services. That would absolutely be allowed under the conservation easement. If they wished to lease land to a cell phone company to construct a cell phone tower, then we would have to step in and block that because that would not be allowed under the terms of the conservation easement. So, yes, the small amendments that we're making here today, we believed posed the biggest risk to violating the conservation easement.
And everything else is part of the amendments up to this point as well. DNR has no issue with insofar as its ability to enforce the conservation easement.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussions?
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm conflicted. Based upon these amendments, does that mean those who are anti-STR are now in favor of STR?
Who are you asking the question to?
I guess if they can ask DNR, I'd like to ask the residents, are they still residents who are against STR?
I'll answer. I believe that they are pursuant to the comments that we heard tonight, Mr. Darby.
Are they in the majority?
Now, I don't know how to answer that.
That would be my question. Where does the community stand?
But somebody said a survey was taken in 70%. Sounds like I heard something like 70% of a recent survey, unless I was asleep. I don't know. I sound like I heard something about a survey being taken on the island of those who were, maybe those people left. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I think to clear this up, what we're doing is we're putting the authority in the hands of the HOA, which they all elect or all have a vote for the leadership of that. And so this is in essence giving them the opportunity of majority rule in governing themselves on these decisions.
Thank you.
I think that's well said, Mr. Boykin. Is there any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, let the record show.
Okay. An ordinance amending the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance Number 1202 as amended to clarify the uses and development standards for the Natural Resource Management Zoning District at the following document locations: Chapter 4, Base Zoning Districts, Chapter 5, Overlay and Special Purpose Zoning Districts, and Chapter 6, Use Regulations, as amended tonight and with the right to amend up to third reading. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Nay.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes second reading with 7 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 absent. And then 6B is an ordinance amending the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance Number 1202 as amended to reduce parking requirements for passive recreation and implement the removal of density ranges from the Plan Development Zoning District requirements and the Conservation Subdivision regulations at the following document locations: Chapter 4, Base Zoning Districts, Chapter 8, Subdivisions, and Chapter 9, Development Standards, with the right to amend up to third reading. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
This is 5B?
Yes,
Nay.
sir. Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes second reading with 7 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item is consent
Mr. Chair,
agenda.
move to approve 6A through J.
Second.
It's been moved to approve 6A through J. Is there anyone that needs to be discussed or taken out for individual discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Number 7, Finance Committee recommendations. We'll do 7A and 7B, and then we'll have special finance.
Move for committee recommendation, both items.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for 7A and 7B. Is there any discussion? Mr. Werman?
I think can we split these?
Yes.
I mean, I think there was a split of votes.
Move for
on
approval,
these in
7A.
committee. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, moved and approved for second, 7A. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that's 2 nays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Move for
7B.
approval.
Second.
7B.
7B moved and seconded for 7B. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next item, special finance. Item 1A in special finance has been removed from the agenda. So the only one we have is 1B, which is Nest Coastal LLC versus Charleston County, South Carolina, and Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission. Executive session. Do I hear a motion that we go into executive session?
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
An explanation for the public.
Thank you. I was about to ask, and is it absolutely necessary that we go?
Yes, sir, it is. Executive session is necessary to obtain, or so I can give you legal advice on this particular matter.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll be back quickly, I hope. One last item.
I hope too.
No.
Okay, we're back from executive session. No votes were taken, no motions were made. We were discussing Nest Coastal LLC versus Charleston County. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman. I move to authorize county attorney to finalize a settlement agreement based on the terms and conditions discussed in executive session and authorize the chair to execute all documents necessary for the settlement agreement.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Council comments?
Wait, we need to do that in the county council meeting
yes,
as well.
We do. I'm sorry, we do. Okay. Special Finance 7D, Nest Coastal LLC.
Recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Council comments. Reverend Middleton? Thank you so much,
Mr. Chair, I know extensive comments tonight, just grateful for the work that we've done thus far over these past 2 years, and certainly happy of the all of the things, from public comments, public hearings, when you listen to the concerns of communities and individuals. At times it may seem like no one wins, but certainly when we are fair and we've done the right thing, I think we should be able to hold our heads up high. And so I just appreciate what we've done and what we're doing, in this iteration of our council work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mr. Sass. I wanted to start by congratulating my son's swim team, Academic Magnet, finished second today in the state 3A championship, and he got on the podium twice, so it was a good day. But as great as his afternoon was, his morning was terrible because his father had to start the day by telling him that people were lying about him. And my other children had to get phone calls. Same news. However, I was very encouraged by all the outreach from people, both sides of the aisle, just as disgusted as me. But I was most encouraged by a text I received last night at 11 o'clock from a very senior Democrat Party official who said that the sort of behavior I was accused of was not in keeping with the person they know. The person also noted that the Charleston County Democrat Party executive now have my cell number, and I should hope to hear an apology from him today. No call, no retraction. All day we waited. Weak walkbacks, double downs, no apologies. Therefore, tonight, you will see a defamation lawsuit being filed by me against these parties, and we'll just see where it goes. If you don't like a vote I take, come after me. We all signed up for that. But when you come after me, my professional reputation, my family, it's game on. And it's game on. We're going to pull the call logs. We're going to pull location logs. I would love to see video. I would love to see proof. So we'll see where this thing goes. But, this is defamation. This isn't political chopping. This is defamation. And it's going to be treated as such. And you'll see that lawsuit probably drop tonight or tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Darby?
Well, I'm not a doctrinaire Democrat, but I would say I regret that what you have experienced, sir. No one should have to go through that for articulating his or her opinion. And it would bother me that it would bother your children, because there's no place for that, sir.
I agree. Thank you.
So from my perspective, sir, again, I can't apologize for those who did, but I regret very much that happening to you, sir.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate their presentations. Need to hear more from you. I do appreciate don't hear from you quite a while, so thank you all very much for the presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. Mr. Warman?
No, not much from me tonight, Mr. Chairman. I certainly appreciate all the public input and the importance of public input in our process. It was certainly extensive tonight, but I think that is all, a valuable part of the process. So that's all I've got this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pryor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Moody, if they do it to one, they'll do it to all. So, we support you in your endeavors. I hope that you would get that phone call of apology, a video of proof showing that was you. But I guess y'all all look alike. That's why they said it was you. Okay? So just a little humor to try to whom you're out. But I'm sorry you and your family had to go through it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
And nobody should have to do that. We are public servants, but, we shouldn't be abused.
Mr. Boykin.
I just would echo the support for Mr. Moody and what he's going through, and very sorry that that has happened, and it's most unfortunate, and that's all I've got.
Ms. Honeycutt?
I too echo the same sentiments. And Mr. Moody, I just hope that the political discourse can tone itself down a little bit. It seems like sometimes in this chaos, people sort of lose sight of the overall picture, which is that we volunteer somewhat to do this, and we really are just people, average people with families. And tonight, I apologize. I did listen, and we'll go back and listen to the earlier comments. I was coaching my daughter's 6th grade volleyball team. It was their last game of the season, and so we all have lives, and we're up here trying to do the darn best we know how. And I'm certain anybody can Monday quarterback a lot of the decisions we make and be critical, but know that we are doing our very best, and I appreciate all that you have done for this council as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Tootin?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Ms. Ham? Mr. Moody, I certainly echo everybody else's comments. You are certainly a hard-working member of this county council, and I know we all appreciate working with you, and we appreciate what you bring to the table.
Thanks, sir.
And as I appreciate all of what everybody brings to the table. So thank you all very much. Hope we'll get through this. A lot of comments tonight. It just amazes me how people get facts wrong. But, I guess they say you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. But it looks like some people have their own facts. So anyway, thank you all. Have a great evening. And do I hear a motion to adjourn? Thank you.